This is video 2 in this series where I'm attempting to learn a little bit about a microcontroller from Freescale. And if I actually take a look at the microcontroller that I'm going to be working with, if I come over here, it's a Freescale, and I'm using this MC9S08 GT32. And I think Freescale and NXP merged at some point. I don't know the full history, but essentially same company, NXP Freescale. And I'm going to use this controller right here, which happens to have a pinout that looks like this. And if I go back to my PCB that I showed in the first video, all I'm looking to do is bring in this microcontroller, set it onto the PCB here, bring in power. So I'll have my 5-volt power coming in, run it through a regulator. I got capacitors on each side of that, and that will supply 3.3 volts to this microcontroller. The microcontroller actually is looking for 3 volt, but it's fine up to 3.8 volts. So I'm going to run it at 3.3 just because I had these regulators on hand. I'll show an LED indicating 5 volt power. I'll show an LED indicating 3.3 volt power. And I have some LEDs just set up with a few of the outputs from this microcontroller going to them. And then I've got some other headers that connect to all the other pins. I've got general power and ground over here with a capacitor that I can go ahead and hook up any, let's say an LCD device or something like that. So maybe at some point I'll hook up a simple 1602 LCD where I'm going to grab power and ground from here and then grab the rest of the signals I need for the data side of things from one of these ports. And then I have a port to do debugging and programming. And I will talk a little bit about that at the end of this video, I think, but it's going to be the next video before I actually try to do any loading up software development tools and doing C and doing the compiling for that, and then trying to ultimately write that code into this microcontroller here, with the goal of just simply lighting up some LEDs. That would be step number 1 if I can get that far. But really what I want to do here in this video is just get this assembled. So if you're following the series, you kind of see what I went through to assemble it. You know, it's again, it's quite simple, and really everything here is going to go, I think, pretty quick, but that's what I'm going to get into. So I have a little box of goodies here that I can take a look at. And maybe the first thing I'll do is open up this package. This should be my PCB. And I'm going to just flip to a different camera here so I can zoom in a little bit better and take a look at this. So let's see what these guys look like. Okay, so here's the little board that I have. You can see it's actually quite small. There's really not much to it size-wise, but I can see the back of it here, and here's the front. So looking for my microcontroller to sit here, and really everything else you saw on my computer screen as I'm looking at this. So that shouldn't be too bad. Of course, the other piece I need is the actual microcontroller, and that's what I should have in this packaging. So let me see about getting this opened up. Okay, so I have this handy little tray, and in that tray, I believe I should have 14 of these. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Yep, so I have 14 of these that I'm going to go ahead and work with. Or I have to work with at least. Right now, obviously, I only need one of those. And as I look at that, that's going to sit on here. Something like that. So I'm going to take the rest of these and just put them away for now. Okay, then the next thing I'm going to need is a little voltage regulator, and grab that here. So this is a little 3.3, so 5 volt to 3.3. And then I've got a little adapter, terminal type adapter for power that's going to sit right here. And then I've got a quick little header for the debug and programming. And then I do have in this box what will hopefully be a workable programmer. So this is a USB DM that basically goes from USB to this header that I'll put on here. And that should allow me to do debugging and programming. But that'll be for another day. So I'm going to set that off to the side with the rest of this stuff. Okay, and then with that, I'm going to need some LEDs here that I'll plug in for 5 volt power, 3 to 3 volt, and then the 3 that I'm just going to use to do testing. So I'll get those put in there. And then I have some capacitors. So I've got some capacitors on the bottom side of this, and then a capacitor on the 5 volt, the 3 volt. I think I've got a little resistor here. I'll have to double check what value that is supposed to be. And I also have a resistor up here for a reset. Yeah, I probably won't put the reset button in for the moment. I don't think I need it. Later, if I can get things working, then I'll come back in and put in all the pin headers here, along with the reset button, things like that. But this is what I'm going to start with. And so step 1 is to go ahead and get this actual microcontroller working. So I'm going to fire up my soldering iron and get this small little mat in place. And then I'm going to flip the camera over to this microscope here. And then we'll be able to get this in here. And I'll try to get that focused. So there you can see the very specific chip I'm using. And this is a GT32 CFB. I'm not sure exactly what the CFB is, but I don't know if it's going to matter much. I've got my pin 1 down here. And I should be able to go back to the documentation too and just make sure that pin 1 is in that orientation. But if I flip it over, nothing on the back of it. There is, of course, get my finger out of the way, but this corner is at an angle, so that should be my pin 1. And that matches the dot up top. So this is going to end up going on here. Like so. Now to get that on there, I'm going to grab some solder. I'm just getting some of my stuff ready here. So I have some flux that I'm setting here, and then I have some solder here that I'm going to use. And I'm going to start by just pinning down one corner of this real quick. So let me go back to that. And see if I can get this first corner just kind of started. And somewhere about like that is what I'm looking for. So we'll start with a pin. And then try to get this in place. Okay, that seems pretty close. So then what I'm going to do is just kind of rotate around and pin another corner. Okay. And I'll just get a couple more here while I'm at it. Okay, that's probably enough to just hold it in place. What I've had luck with then is just coming in here and putting some flux all the way around it. And then running some solder down the side. Okay, I think that covered that okay. So what I might do is just pull this up and look at that quick. And I think I'm good there. I think I'm fine there. And there. And there. So I think I have all of those soldered. Okay. Okay, so if that's okay, then I think I'll flip it over and get these capacitors on here real quick. And I think these are just 0.01s, but I'm going to jump over real quick and actually... Okay, so these are all 0.1, so a couple of 0.1s there. So 0.1, 0.1, 0.1 microfarad, and another one over here. So it should be that all of these that I go look at up here over to the right are 0.1s. 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. So I need some 0.1 microfarad capacitors. And I know I need those 4. And that might be it for 0.1s. So I'm going to grab 4 of these. And so again here I'm just working with, and maybe I'll push this microscope back a bit. I just kind of work with whatever I have here, and these are just some old 0.1. Okay, so I'll get these 4 capacitors, and maybe while I'm at it I'll get some resistors ready because I'm going to need a bunch of those. And so as far as resistors are concerned, I know I need these 3 down here. This here is a resistor somewhere in the 4.7 to 10K, so I'll have to track down one of those. This one down here, same. And then these are going to be whatever I want to go with the specific LED that I'm using. And so I've got those, maybe 660 or and this one over here, maybe something in this 800 range, which I labeled as a 1K, and I labeled this as a 1K, but it really doesn't matter. I'll grab something that makes sense for the LED. But on these are 603 size-wise. I've got some 820s, and maybe I'll grab those for these top 2 LEDs up here, and maybe I can do the same for these down here. That'd probably be fine, and I can always adjust them later if I need to. So I need 5 of these. Let's get those out and ready. And then I need to see if I have, what do I have for something in this 4.7 to 10K in size 603. And so if I look at, I'm just on my other screen here, I've got a quick little inventory list I'm looking at. So maybe I'll go 70, I've got a 7500, so I'm going to see if I can find that quickly. Okay, real quick, just pulled out a whole bunch of these. So these are 603, 7.5K, and I'm just going to get a couple of these cut off. And then I'm going to need some LEDs, and I've got a couple of these larger capacitors. And I've got these as a 10 microfarad in a kind of a 1206 footprint. And so I have those here. So let me just grab, I need 2 of those. Okay, and then I'll need some LEDs. I'll come back and grab those here though in a second. So let's see about, I'll flip back to the scope here, and I'm going to go ahead and try to get these capacitors put in real quick. And I notice as I'm getting into the bottom of these, actually the footprint I used was 805 because these capacitors seemed really small. So the footprint is an 805 footprint as I'm looking on my screen. And I grabbed 603s, but that's fine. This I think is good enough. If this was something that wasn't just a temporary play board, I maybe would go back and grab some other capacitors, but I don't think I'll have any issues with this. Okay, 4 capacitors put on the bottom. So that's the only thing I have on the bottom side of this board. And so now I'm going to go back up to the top side and let me get some resistors put in place. And I have 2 large caps. Maybe I'll put those on quick. So that would be these 10 microfarads. Those are fine. Now let's get these resistors up here. Okay, now I've got to get these little 7500 ohm. Oh, so at this point I have this resistor here, which is taking the interrupt, it looks like, and pulling it high, the interrupt line. So it must be an active low interrupt. And then I'm also going to come over here, and we had this pull up here, which is going to be for my reset line. And it is pulling it high also. So active low reset, I'm going to assume. And yeah, actually reset pound. And the interrupt, I might not have labeled it that way. It's just interrupt. But being that that interrupt is going to VCC, it's pulling it high. It's got to be an active low interrupt. Okay, so then I think I have all of these on there. Next thing then is real quick, I need a power LED for 5 volt, 3 volt, and then 3 GPIO LEDs. So the bottom of the red LED has that T on it, and that'd be ground off to the left. And in my circuit then, I'm then running that, well, sorry, that'd be the positive side, then the right, what you're seeing on the video would be the negative side. And if I flip it over, it looks like this. So let me get that soldered in. And let's see what this other one, this is a green, and I'm gonna read that as it needing to go this way. Let me get that back in the frame. Okay, flip those around to get the other sides quickly. Okay, I think I've got those. Okay, so that should be those 2 LEDs. And then I need the bottom 3 LEDs to plug these in. And so I'm going to go with blue for those. So red for 5 volt, green for 3 volt, and then blue for my GPIOs. Okay, I think it's good enough. So then if I back out here for a second, resistor LED, reset resistor, resistor LED, cap. I've got a couple of little headers for 5 volt, 3 volt, 3 volt, which I'm not worried about. Caps before and after. These 3 LEDs, I now need to get this header in, and my voltage regulator and power coming in. So I'll just go ahead and do that quickly. Okay, good enough. So then, if I back out again, at this point, just see if there's anything I'm missing. There's a capacitor here, but that's just for when I supply power through these 2-pin headers to whatever devices, which I have nothing at the moment. I don't need any of these headers. Got my caps on the bottom. I'm just missing a reset switch, which I don't need for now. A couple of headers if I want to plug into 5 volt or 3 volt. Again, I've got 3 volt over here. So those will probably be more test points than anything for now. So then I think that is to the point where I can maybe get close to powering this up. So I'm going to go to my meter and just double check. So between the 5 volt and its ground, I'm getting about 14.5 K and it's climbing, so that seems fine. I'm going to do the same thing on the 3 volt, and I'm getting like 4 meg, and it's coming down. So I don't think I have anything backwards there. Okay, so I think I don't have any shorts, so I might get some power to this and see if I can turn it on, and if I get power LEDs, and that's as much as I'm going to get. Processor, microcontroller, I'm not going to get anything out of. Just for simplicity, I'm going to use this to bring power in, and all I'm doing is using these screw terminals, and I've got black here, which is ground. I'm just plugging these in like so. And I'll get this centered in the camera in just a second. Okay, so then I'm going to bring power in here. Black is going to ground, and I should be able to read my 5 volts there. As far as this little utility board, I'm just going to bring banana plugs to it. So this is just going to my power supply, and I'm going to go ahead and feed it 5 volts and have that be off. Okay, so right now I've got 5 volts. It might be hard to tell with the overhead lights here, but this LED is on. So if I flip this switch, it should turn on this LED showing I got 5 volt going out. I should get 5 volts in here, hopefully get an LED there and here. Okay, so I got my 3. I don't have my 5 volt, so I'm guessing I have a soldering issue. This one is not turned on. So what I might do real quick is just measure. Grab my ground, and I do have all 4 of these grounded, so I should be able to just go right here to a ground and measure going into the LED, and I have nothing. and trying to go in. So 5 volt there, 5 volt there, 5 volt there. So from there up to this resistor, I'm missing something there for some reason. I'm guessing it's a bad solder connection on that resistor. So guess is between this capacitor where I'm getting the 5 volt and this resistor right here, that connection is bad or something else has happened. It's just got to be a bad solder connection, which wouldn't surprise me at all. So I'm going to go ahead and flip power off and disconnect this and just go take a look at that real quick. So I'm guessing it's this right there is not contacting. So I'm going to flip this around so I can get to it better. And put a little bit of flux on there. And we'll try that again. Okay, power on. Okay, good. So if I zoom into that, I now have the red. And then I was thinking this was supposed to be green, but it looks very white to me. So I'll find out later when I go to turn one of these on down here. And I guess I could just temporarily test one of these down here to see what color they are. And I'm curious, you know, if that, because this to me at least looks very white. So I've got a red and a white. And then maybe I grabbed the wrong LEDs as I was pulling them out. So I'm curious. I'm going to I just want to test this down here. So I'm going to set my power supply to 3 volt. Okay, I changed my power supply to 3.3 volts. So if you can tell, this is dimmer. But now I have a 3 volt coming out of here. So I'm just curious. I'm going to go on one side of the resistor and then on the LED on the other side. I've got to flip my switch on. Okay, those are blues. And so I think I said green, but obviously those are. So I don't know if you can see this or not. But those are blue. And then this one up here is white. So I don't know where I got green. Let me turn this off. And if I just real quick peek at my LEDs, I got blue. And I've got red. And I got white. So no green. Okay. So that is what I correctly pulled then. So let me go ahead and turn off my power supply. Get this plugged back in. I'm back in the 5 volt. And let me double check. Positive. Positive. Okay. So I'm going to show red for, and I don't know how my scope will pick this up. I can try it over here. So this will be red showing 5 volt, white showing 3 volt. And then when I get down here to these GPIOs, they will be blue. Okay, so at this point, I think we're good on here. Just as it sits, I'm pulling 0.26 amps. And really the only thing it's doing there is it's obviously got this hopefully powered up and then 2 LEDs. But next I'll have to worry about, can I get this programmed. And what that's going to look like, I think, let me go get that here, is so I think the idea here will be that this will plug into my USB on my computer, and then this header, and I'll have to double check the orientation before I actually do it, will either plug in like this or like this. And I believe inside of this there's two different headers to plug into, and I can check the orientation on that. But I'll pop this open later. It doesn't look like there's any screws or anything, so I think this top will just snap off. But I'm not going to do that right now. So this will be my programmer. I'm going to have to load up some software. And that software that I'm going to use is this Code Warrior from NXP. And I believe the version 11, which is using the Eclipse development environment, there is a version that I can download that doesn't require any fees. It's free to use. It has limitations, but I think for what I'm doing, it's going to be perfectly fine. It's code size limitation, and for this microcontroller, I doubt that'll even be a problem. And so I'll have to install that, see if I can actually program something, like figure out, I got 3 ports, port C, 4, 5, and 6, and see if I can alternate those and just light up these LEDs. So that's where I'm at. This is not getting hot. Nothing's getting hot. Maybe I will check voltage here real quick just to kind of see what am I getting for voltage on, well, first of all, the 5 volt. So if I read on that header, I'm getting a 5.0046 into it. And if I go to my 3.3 volt, I'm getting 3.3132, so 3.3 volt, pretty darn close. So I think so far this should be okay. And more to come in the next video.